Hi. Welcome. Welcome to ILP and Ducere's Thought Leadership webinar, Unlocking Growth and Building Educational Pathways as an Employee Benefit. Thank you all for joining us. I will go ahead and introduce our guests as we wait for attendees. We have Nicole Hill, CEO of the Institute for Learning and Performance, Asia Pacific region. We have Jerry Marcus, current MBA student for Ducere and learning and development consultant. And we have Don Small, who is the Chief Revenue Officer for Ducere Global Business School. Thank you again for joining us. This session will be recorded and sent out to you all. And please stay alert for more webinars. And go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you very much. Okay, so in my role as CEO for a membership association and the Academy, having a community of over 3,000 members, I meet with L&D professionals every week to discuss a lot of hot topics. And one popular topic is around the challenges they are experiencing in their organizations. So I'm going to share two with you. So one, the lack of response to skills gaps, and two, a shortage of experience across the organization. So I found a very interesting statistic. So 75% of employers in 41 countries can't find the skilled employees they need, which is very interesting. So how do we fix this? So we need to implement skills-based learning to close the gap and upskill our employees. What is the pathway to do this? So there are 3 stages to consider. 1, map. So this can be done through analyze and identify the learning and performance needs to create the right solutions and design and deliver the training. Measure, evaluate the possible impact of the employee and the organization. And 3, close the gap. So the pathway to address these gaps can be assessed through higher education, such as a tailored learning program that can be complete as a project in your workplace. Jerry Marcus is a current MBA student and learning consultant, and I'm going to ask Jerry to discuss this further. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Nicole. Now, I just want to chat, before I talk about those pathways, I just want to talk a little bit about why I started studying. And I've worked in a number of organisations, large organisations, telecommunications companies, which you probably have a phone service through. I've worked for major banks, which you probably have a bank account through. And I've worked across a range of other industries, as well as education as well. So higher education, vocational education, training, worked in there as well as private RTOs. But I think when I confronted where I was at last year, wasn't really excited in my job at the time. And I was wondering what to do next. I'd loved studying and I wanted to do more of it, but I didn't want to do a traditional education. At the same time, as everybody knows, generative AI was taking off and has been having a significant impact. If you don't know about generative AI, not sure what you've been doing, but it's pretty popular out there. And one of the things that I started to grapple with is my practitioner experience probably wasn't going to carry me through anymore. When I'd studied in the past, I loved the injection of new knowledge it gave me, engaging with research and study. And not having that, I kind of found that I was ending up in a role where I was just really trading on organizational knowledge and all the kind of things that I'd done before. So I kind of needed kind of like a fresh perspective on things happening, what I could do, I have this thirst for knowledge. At the same time, as you can see, I mean, I mentioned AI before, the IT landscape's rapidly changing, but lots of industries are. Out of COVID, organizations are changing in the way they operate and the way they support people, how they engage people, how they retain people. And I was facing into this thing called, what about AI and how's this going to impact workforces and organizations? How are they going to structure their teams? How are they going to train people? And looking to also down the barrel at how my own profession as a learning consultant is going to change. And I started to kind of look around this, and while I'm in my MBA, I've been kind of looking through things around AI, and I started to find some recent research that you can see these things up on the screen here. AI is going to have a big impact, but what am I going to do about that, and how can I contribute to that impact? So that's kind of where I wanted to think about why I wanted to study again. And I secretly, when I moved to Melbourne a couple of years ago, I was looking around the city going, where's a campus? Like, what are the universities around at the moment? Where could I study? And I was lucky enough at a conference last year to bump into Don, who you'll hear from later, from Ducere. So it's pretty much was fantastic that I could find a qualification that could support me in the kind of things that I was interested in, not the kind of things that they wanted to just teach. So when I started to look at organizations and think about this thing, I started to think about how traditional qualifications, like I'm pretty experienced, I've got a number of years as a practitioner. I didn't want to go and do study and just basically learn what they wanted to teach me. Like I wanted to do things that were of interest to me, and I wanted a qualification that could support that. But from a learning practitioner hat, it started to make me think about how this could be supported by organizations and how me as a learner could support an organization that I worked in. So how education could tie into this thing called the employee value proposition around compensation and benefits, around career development and growth, around work culture and environment, and the other things that you can see up there on the screen, and how my knowledge could be leveraged to help an organization that I worked in, rather than me just doing some qualification that, I mean, hopefully the organization would pay for, but really what value would they be getting out of me studying there? So I really wanted the right type of qualification that could help me support the business or the organization that I was working in and help me deliver better outcomes and better results for that organization. So as you can see, a few other things up here on the screen: leadership management style, work challenges and opportunities. I'm one of those people who kind of gets bored pretty quickly. So having study on the side really helps me. But if I can tie the things together that I'm interested in and tie it to the workplace I'm in and deliver value on both sides, it makes for what I see as a more optimized way of studying. So with that in mind, I want to hand over to Don, who's going to talk more about what Ducere offers in terms of their qualifications, because you'll start to see, and I'll come back a little bit later and talk about how these pathways can work, but I'll hand over to Don for now. Don, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to you. Oh, you're on mute, Don.
Thanks, Jerry. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can see it.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm going to start with how you pronounce Ducere, because this has been a topic of conversation everywhere I go. How do we say it and what does it mean? Ducere actually means to lead. So it's an old Latin word that, our founder and President Matt Jacobson has used for both our not-for-profit foundation, which delivers education programs in over 28 African countries, to the Ducere Global Business School. Matt was actually supposed to be delivering this presentation. Unfortunately, he's not well, so he wanted to pass on his apologies. So hopefully I can fill the shoes. They're huge. Let's go straight into what Jerry was talking about. Like, this is one of the biggest issues, right? I've been involved in HR and learning and development now for a fair bit. And every time we build a L&D program or start putting a L&D strategy together, one of the biggest things that everyone's worried about is engagement. How do you measure that an ROI? And that's an age-old question. But one thing that we see from data that's out there, delivering or aligning or building a pathway from your standard leadership programs or from your inductions into higher education programs and building that accreditation automatically gives you a ROI point. You can measure the increase of retention. You can measure the talent pool and productivity, and you can measure the morale levels of your workforce. A recent study by Australian HR Institute showed that replacing an employee is 1.5 times. So that's a huge cost. So if you wanna, if you can do whatever you can to keep the staff, higher education is one of your best solutions out there. We've got a huge network of clients, partners, and alumni. We've been doing this for over a decade now. We got everyone from Telstra, PwC to Apple and Disney, Aston Martin in the US. We are now a global company, a small Australian startup that started in Melbourne, now based in the US, and we have offices in almost every continent and delivering the programs literally to every corner. I'm studying myself with University of East London at the moment, and in my cohort, we've got everyone from Mexico to Japan, all across the European continent and in Africa. So it's a really interesting way of learning. It's not just everyone asks me, do you get a good network through these programs? And I said, if you want a proper network, this is the only type of program to do, because I'm working with people that are working in medical fields and aeronautics and everything that you would never get the opportunity to really run into in day-to-day life doing an Australian program. The program is very disruptive, and what we've done is given us so much recognition and awards, and you can see the list there. Matt himself started this journey over 15 years ago. We had Julia Gillard as our first inaugural chancellor. We've actually got over 5 Australian prime ministers, including John Howard, in our faculty. Dr. Joyce Banda, one of 2 female presidents out of the African continent, is our current patron. And one of the unique things that we do is really looking at what traditional universities can do and deliver, and then what most of the enterprise programs do. I think, Jerry, you're probably more qualified to talk to this slide than I am. So I'm just going to quickly hand over to you for a couple of seconds.
Thanks, Don. And I think, and these options, this is one of the things that made the difference to me. Like you'll see in their traditional universities, sure, they deliver bachelor and MBA degrees, absolutely. Short courses don't. And then you can see the tailored enterprise degree. And I think, this really comes back to when you start seeing, is it tailored to the client strategy? Is it project-based learning? Is it flexible? That's where traditional universities start to slip. And what I love about Ducere, so I could study with students, and lots of them Australian students, but they could be from anywhere in the world because it's online. I can pick up really exciting industry projects. This industry project I'm currently working, we just delivered a final report, is for a not-for-profit, and it's given me some incredible skills. It's real world. I'm delivering value back to a business that is trying to make a massive difference in terms of diversity, and particularly people with disabilities. I wouldn't have been able to make a difference necessarily like that in a traditional university education, which was giving me some kind of canned case study that I have to fill out, just like, many, maybe hundreds of students had done in previous semesters. So I get to make a difference, contribute, and work on real types of projects, real types of clients. The other thing is it's flexible. So there's negotiated discussion around, in this particular case, the industry project, when we could meet up, when we would work with clients. And in the other case, for the other courses that I've studied there, that was self-paced, so I could drop into lectures as needed. Some lectures were recorded, some I could go and attend. So it gave me a lot of flexibility to be able to do that work in my own time, because I'm still a full-time worker. I've got a new puppy. I've got other interests. I play a lot of video games. So I need to be able to have study work around me. The other thing is affordability. Don will talk about this later, but this is a game changer. If I'd looked at other programs before this, when I considered the cost of them, quite frankly, they're just not palatable. I mean, we all know the economic environment at the moment. It's challenging. Inflation's high, pressures on costs of living. It would have actually been prohibitive to me. So having this option to come through Ducere and be able to afford a qualification, in particular for me, it's an MBA. I've always wanted to do further study. This made it possible for me to study again. And of course, you can see some other, the other element here, support staff retention. If you're working on projects that are relevant to the industry you're in, that you're interested in, but particularly to the organisation that you're working in, then you're going to be able to deliver value to that organization, they're going to want to keep you because you are helping them forge the future of that organization. That's really important. When I worked on an industry project, the current industry project that I'm participating in, the value of the research we've done and contributed to that organization is significant. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that would have been worth if they had gone out to an external consultant. Now, for a not-for-profit to be able to do that and come and get research done through Ducere, that's a game changer for them because they would not have been able to afford that as a not-for-profit by going out to an external consultant. So there's my contribution to make a difference to organizations and impact diverse audiences that I'm also able to do through this. But you can see there's a lot of value in what Ducere offered through their tailored program. There's a lot of value to organizations. There's value to people who participate, the organizations that contribute to the industry projects and the value that they get out, and of course, value to you in terms of experiencing working in industry projects, but also working on projects that are relevant to your interests and to the organizations that you're working in, or the industries that you're working in. Back to you, Don.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, so taking that rigid framework of the universities and then the limitations of what short courses can deliver in a workplace environment, this is not rocket science, right? Like, it's looking at what's needed into the current future workforce and then bringing a solution. And fortunately, we started this over a decade ago and we've been able to now deliver. And one of the biggest pieces of this is the way we deliver the learning. We've got our own faculty that we got our own what we call practical academics that deliver in the same sense in a university. You go to the lectures like you do in any other university, but then it's all backed up by insights from these amazing world leaders. We've got everyone from, as I said before, we had Julia Gillard to John Howard, 5 Australian prime ministers. We got the founder of Atari, and then on the other side, the director of the CIA. All of these insights are embedded into your program. So when you're learning about diversity and inclusion, you're actually hearing from people like Julia Gillard. When you're learning about investments, you've got some of the world's biggest investment leaders, and when it comes to business strategy, it's the same. So this is hours and hours worth of master classes to supplement the already amazing curriculum that we've built. And it's all, again, Jerry talked about the assignments that being tailored and relevant to your business. And these are a few examples. We got some amazing partners like KPMG, Aston Martin, the United Nations, and we'll share this presentation. I want to go through this quickly, so we've got a bit of time for a Q&A. You can see how these organizations have used those assignments to tailor it to a specific problem that they've got within their business. And, this is a specific example of, the subject being business strategy. You got 3 very different businesses there: Adecco, a global staffing company, and a US family-owned winery called Hesperston and Wyndham. And they all look at the assignment in the same way, evaluate the effectiveness of a particular internal business strategy from either a commercial, customer, or a market focus. Adecco looks at their staff, attracting staff and retaining staff. For Hesperston, it's about looking at the environmental and financial, political, economic impact into their business. And then for Wyndham, they're looking at their loyalty program. So it's being very specific and very much tailored to that business, but you're working within the same framework. That's how you're able to turn the old school way of sitting an exam, studying what Coca-Cola did in 1986, and then, even when you do a project, a hypothetical project, to working on real world problems. So that is the differentiator here. And we don't have exams. That's one of the biggest things. These are all project based, and that's the real world application of this program. And Jerry talked about, one of the biggest enterprise challenges is retention, and that's becoming even worse now with the new generations coming into the workforce and all the other challenges that we're faced with AI and everything else. This gives you a great opportunity to embed your education programs into a retention strategy. So by giving people a way to educate themselves within the business rather than outside of the business, guarantees that people stay within the business and while delivering value back to the business. The other part is diversity, inclusion, and this is one of those things where most companies run these things as a tick box ticking exercise, right? Imagine if you can integrate that into your organizational strategy. I was actually talking to an employer last week where they said, imagine if we could offer every single female worker within the workforce when they go on maternity leave to do one of these programs. And by the time they come back, they have the option to take this up and be more qualified than before they left, while delivering value back to the business through the projects. So they're the kind of things we're talking about. It's not doing diversity and inclusion for the sake of doing it. It's actually doing it for a purpose. And we've got everything from women in leadership scholarships to developing nation scholarships, and we're really leading the way in this sector and doing it properly and doing it more impactfully. And we deliver this in a package that's designed to work within a workplace. So if you're partnering with a global organization, you can see here Dale Carnegie and Ford Academy, they've got their own white label solution. And we're doing this so the familiarity is still there. It looks like it's a L&D program that's delivered within the workplace, and then it becomes easier for you to then build the pathways, whether it's from a learning and development program you've built or a bespoke program that you're running within the organization. And then we know that employee recognition programs, where Jerry was talking about before, they really don't add too much value in the education space. Imagine if you can bring it all together. And the secret is having all of these amazing universities. They're not business institute. All of our programs are accredited by world-leading universities. And we supplement the part that's missing right now in higher education in corporate programs, the management, the reporting, and then by doing what we do, things like what we're doing today, anyone who's attending this webinar has an opportunity to work with us. We'll deliver this whole program at no cost. So we're waiving any setup fees. That's up to about a $30,000 saving that we can give organizations right now by building that a white label solution and making the scholarships available. And then we use Canvas, the world's fastest growing learning platform for higher education. And it's one of those amazing platforms. It's built mobile first. So most of your learning can be done on a mobile device. I'm studying myself, and this has been a game changer for me, not having to use my laptop all the time to even attend a lecture. You can actually do everything, most of your work on a mobile device. And then the best part, you get to graduate on campus. Doesn't matter where in the world it is. It's a good excuse for you to go on a small holiday as well. I'm actually looking forward to graduating in London. Because you become a student of the university itself, you get the opportunity to either, we've got universities in Paris, Rome, London, now in Miami in the US as well. You get to go to those places and graduate yourself. So it's a great opportunity, and all of that is for a good cause. Our Ducere Foundation, as I said before, delivers education programs to 28 African countries, and we are proud of that. So that's me. I think we've got a bit of time for Q&A. I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Jerry. So there's no questions up in the chat. So feel free, whoever's sitting on the webinar, to pop up any questions that you would like answered. We can do that. You've got everyone here that can answer those questions for you. While that's happening, Don, is there a typical question that you get asked that maybe we can just float across the group?
Yeah, I
add an
have a question.
go on.
I know this is one we get in webinars all the time, but as a student, can I go to an employee and kind of ask if I can enroll in Ducere programs, or how do I go about that, having that conversation?
Yeah, most of our employee programs, our partners, they have their own benefit programs and their own structure around education. So once we set up the Ducere Academy, so it could be your own, one of our partners is Europcar. So we have the Europcar Academy where we make scholarships available through Europcar, negotiated scholarships. And all they've got to do is just go and talk to their employer, and they'll direct you to the Ducere Academy where they get direct contact with one of our consultants, where we can direct you based on your specific needs. We can guide you in the right direction. But in terms of tuition support and study support, that is something that the organization themselves have as a policy.
So Don, maybe touch a little bit on how long does it take to set up the enterprise, roughly?
Yeah, we can set it up and running within 48 hours. So there's a simple agreement that we have to go into, and mainly because you're sharing the brands of all those universities to say that you're partnering with them. And then for us to be able to build that white label academy, we need to be able to use your branding and everything that's sort of normally restricted by IP. So we have a mutually agreeing agreement that allows both of us to share our collateral. So once we do that, within 48 hours, we can have the academy up and running.
Fantastic. So the beauty about this is that you can actually work on a project in the workplace. So can you give me some examples of some of the projects that you've had some students working on as in a group?
Yeah, so we've got everything from organizations coming on board saying they want to do a project for their workforce where there's 8 people working on a specific project, whether it's building a ERP system or whether it's building a leadership program. It's totally dependent upon what the workforce wants to set up as a example project. And these are not hypotheticals. We actually work with organizations on a real problem that they're facing day to day. And in the same way that a consultancy company like Deloitte or KPMG would come and charge you a whole lot of money, we do the same. We go through the same process. We understand what the problem is, and then we go through a whole set of questionnaires to build that into a project. And then you have the option to keep that project just for your workforce, or you can make it available to our student cohorts in each one of our university programs.
Fantastic. And roughly, what's the average completion time for the MBA?
Our MBAs are anywhere from 12 months to 2 years for the Australian programs. So if you're studying full time and want to finish as fast as you can, your best option is a European program, because you're looking at about 10 hours worth of time investment to do a full-time program, whereas for one of the Australian programs, you're looking around 20 hours worth of time investment. And that's mainly because the way the programs are built in Australia, you have to do 12 subjects to get your MBA, whereas in Europe, you've only got 6 subjects. The competency you achieve and the amount of work you have to do doesn't change as much, but we have combined some of those units into one major unit. So you're doing only 2 assignments, whereas you would need to do 6 assignments in an Australian program. So yeah, so it's between 12 and 24 months.
Great, that's very good. So there's no questions, so I will wrap that up and say thank you to everyone for attending the webinar. Thank you, Maria, Don and Jerry, of course, for all your information. And if anyone has got any other questions, please feel free to reach out at any time. You've got all of our contact details.
Nicole, I might jump in. We do have a couple of good offers that we are working with our enterprise as well. So you might as well make it available to your membership base. So anyone who's attended this webinar, one of the things we can do is give you access to our current HR scholarship program. So we've got a few intakes coming up. So we got College de Paris and Rome Business School and Valencia International University programs coming up in June and July. And we have University of East London straight after that, and then Torrance programs as well. So all of those programs have HR scholarships. They're starting from 10,000 Australian dollars. And that's what Jerry was talking about before. When we talk about accessibility and affordability, the average cost of a MBA program in Australia at the moment is about 60,000 Australian dollars. To be able to get access to a program at about 10,000 Australian dollars is absolutely amazing. And this is a offer that we run a few times a year. So right now, anyone who's listening to this webinar, reach out to us and we'll be able to help you out with that. And if you're looking at setting up an enterprise program, and I think I mentioned it through the presentation, we have a special offer. We are waiving all of the setup fee. That's setting it up and running the program. That's a saving of up to about $30,000. That's to set up your own scholarships. We make scholarships available and running the webinars for the staff and making the marketing collateral available and building that white label academy solution. All of that is at absolutely no cost.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what we'll do is we'll send the recording out with that in an email, Don. Is that okay if we can do that?
Yeah, perfect. That'd be great.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. Anything else that you'd like to add to that, Don?
No, I'm good. I've given away
Okay.
everything I can. So
Great. All right.
hopefully we can help a few people out and yeah, add some value to your membership.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jerry. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.